we'd like to sincerely thank our Patreon supporters.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today we are shooting a tortoise video, and what better place to shoot a tortoise video than at Kamp Kenan. We are going to be housing my mom's Aldabra tortoises and my buddy Chris Suarez's and Emily's Aldabra tortoises at our property. And I think we've come up with the idea that we're gonna put them in the play area until the permanent area is built. And we're at Kenan's house to get an idea for how he built his tortoise hides to keep them warm in the winter. And we're gonna start off in the spur thigh enclosure. Kagan is checking out one of the spur thighs. They are all out sunning themselves today. All of them in the sun, which is great to see. They all look super happy. Kenan is doing so much work on the property right now. It is crazy. All right, so this is not hinged. So to get an idea for how it's built and heated, I've got to get down on the ground. So he has heat lamps above, and I imagine, oh look, Kagan found out it's hinged on the other side, huh?
Yeah. But it might have like a latch or something.
I suppose I should mention that Kenan is not here. You know, the thing is this would work for the Aldabras right now, but they're growing. And I would rather, and a wood floor. So wood floor works, and he's able to clean it this way and everything. I think what we need to do is look at the larger tortoises. But so far, I'm seeing heat lamps for a heating source. Let's go look at the Aldabras and the Galops. All right, so now we're in Kenan's enclosure where he keeps the Aldabras and the Galops. And obviously we're here to look at their heated hide spot, but we can't help but look and, you know, we're gonna be building the permanent enclosure and knowing what they need and the amount of space they need. Now in the summertime, he opens up through that little entrance, that whole wooded area, which is quite large. When you think about that, I think we're only thinking about this much space at the house to the fence line. But the idea of letting them graze the entire backyard is a future possibility. I think we could, since everything has concrete around it. They could walk all the way around our fruit trees, enclosures, and all of that. Super cool. Let's look in on them. I know Kenan has them closed in, but I think the heat source, the height, and the size, because that's not so big that I can't build it in a modular way where it can be taken apart and moved. Let's see if we just, I think that's enough. We definitely don't want them walking out. Oh, oh no. Well, funny, but also gonna be a problem for us because we don't know how to get them back. All right, so heat lamps. Oh, the temperature is nice in here. Multiple heat lamps. And I'm sure a thermostat. Some hay on the ground. So no floor heat sources. Feels great in there.
Hey, buddy.
Needed to be out and get some attention.
Oh, look at these big elephant feet.
How do you feel about that on our property?
I like it. That is so precious.
Definitely my favorite tortoise.
Look how just impressive their feet are and everything.
Well, everything about them.
I can't even hardly put my 2 hands around it.
So lovable. So I had to quickly get the board put back before the other ones crawled out. So now we're gonna have to find a way to get this tortoise back in there with the other ones not crawling out.
I think he's got some cactus pads around here.
But without the other ones crawling out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now I really love the way this other one was built with the stacked rocks and the cement, a solid cement roof. How it is a bunker, but it doesn't have the height that has, and that is surprisingly warm in there.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna have to, I was trying to take it all in. I'm gonna have to look back at the photo and see if the walls are insulated or if it's just the landscape timbers, and that is the wall thickness.
Well, it's so cool to look at it from the side too, because it looks like a little log cabin.
Yeah.
It's just really cute.
It's great. All right, we're gonna put the camera down and get this tortoise back in there. Well, we got it back in there, and that was an adventure and something we're gonna have to get used to doing, but I guess we'll get to do it over time with a smaller tortoise.
Yeah.
And we'll grow into the larger ones and have to devise a way and to make it easier for us. We'll see you guys back at the property. And now we're back at it, guys. It is weeks and weeks later. I wish it was the next day, but life's been busy. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of other projects. I have now finally purchased all the materials to start this tortoise hide box. And I think I have my plan down. The Tundra is on the bump stops. I have it totally loaded with styrofoam insulation boards, plywood, different thicknesses, 2x4s, 2x10s, 2x6s, and then wall insulation. I would love to use the foam for all of it, but the R value is not as good as the fiberglass wall insulation. I don't like the fact that the wall insulation could get wet and harbor insects and stuff like that, but I'm gonna do a framed wall with plywood on the outside and the insulation in the middle and plywood on the inside. Now, the whole idea is, let's see, this is the rough drawing with a sloping roof in the back, 8 foot wide, 6 foot deep, 4 foot tall in the back, 6 foot tall in the front, with the door big enough for us to go in. Metal roof. But I have to build it in the temporary area. So I'm gonna build it and build it in such a way that I can take it apart and move it to its permanent location later. So I think we're gonna move it, I don't know. I could either put the hide box over there next to Lily or over here in this corner. I don't know, honestly, which one is better. Maybe that'll be a last minute decision. You know, I'm thinking over on this side, honestly. But I'm gonna build it where I can take it apart later and then move it when we build the permanent tortoise area over there. I'm gonna start unloading the lumber, and then I'll show you guys once I have the base, the floor base framed out, and then we'll go from there. All right, I have the 6 foot by 8 foot base framed out of 2x10s. Now this is only gonna get used in here, and when this gets rebuilt in its permanent location, it'll be a concrete slab. What I'm gonna have to do is take the 3/4 inch plywood sheeting that I'm gonna make for the floor. It'll be the full sheet, And I will use the full sheet to square this because this is not necessarily square. So I'll use the full sheet, get it as a straight edge across the front, and then I might have to walk this way or that way slightly to get it perfectly square. And then do the 2 foot by 8 foot strip on the back. And I will probably do a 2x4 support tying those two together so there's no walking on that floor. Then I have to stand this up, and I'll show you that. We'll stand it up and we'll use some of that styrofoam, the 2-inch styrofoam, and insulate that floor so the cold doesn't come up from below them. It's gonna be a pain because it's gonna be heavy to stand up and everything, but then we have to start building the structure, and I have to do it out from the wall, and then once we get those 2 walls, that back wall and this wall done enough, then we have to move it into the corner because we don't want this airspace here for the tortoises to get jammed up in here and we can't get them out. So then this has to be moved into the corner. So it's a little tricky. If it wasn't jammed into a corner, if I had it in the middle of the space where they walked around or something like that, it would probably be easier, but it is what it is. Kagan is strong. I'm strong enough. So we'll get that step done, and I'll show you once I have the floor done and it's standing up, and we'll get that styrofoam underneath there. Okay, breathing heavy. I had Kagan come out here. I used the shovel and actually dug a little place to get your hands underneath it. And this is the underside of the platform. And now I'm gonna use an adhesive and cut that styrofoam and glue it in to those spaces so the cold air can't come from underneath. And all of this temporary, but it has to be done. So the floor is back down, and now I need to get the back wall and that wall framed out, put together, so this whole structure can get it slid into that corner. All right, so, all right, well, like everything, plans are gonna change, ideas will change. You know, I think I'm doing this, and then Kagan and I are talking as we're working, and we kind of changed our mind about certain things. One, we're not concerned about moving the enclosure all the way up against the back wall later, because we could simply put a cinder block or a board there, because this is temporary, and the air going around the enclosure, the hide box will only help it dry out and last longer. And it'll make it easier. It's gonna make it easier. Also, we were talking about how the tortoises, because of the temperature, are gonna be spending more time in there. So Kagan was like, we've gotta put a tilt. I know your intention is to do that when we do a slab, but we need this to be able to rinse out and clean it. So what we did is we just, you know, this is a very sturdy base that we built. Just put 3 blocks across the back, and so this has a significant pitch. So you'll be able to crawl in the 36 by 36 inch door and rinse it out. No problem, will go out. Kagan has already put insulation on the back wall. We know that this back wall is square this way. We used the plywood since it was sitting flat against our slab or our foundation. Was able to measure and get it right, so that wall is square. And we don't know if it's leaning this way or not, until we do the side wall. In fact, I don't even have it framed out yet. We've rough framed the front wall and the end of that. And what I did is, again, the plywood against the foundation with the factory cut here. It's got about a 1/4 inch there, 1/4 inch, 3/16 of an inch up here. So now we know that this is square and that back wall is square. Now we can figure out our measurement for our top 2x4, and then we'll be able to figure out the 2 studs there. We're doing studs 24 inches on center. This is not structural by any means, and we purchased the insulation for a 2x4 thickness wall that is 24 inches on center. So that worked out great. The walls, now we're going to do plywood on top of that, so the walls are going to be very, very insulated. In fact, we can do the plywood on that back wall very soon, and I think we're just waiting to figure out the roof. Oh, I see Al's out, huh?
Mm-hmm. Peggy was out earlier too.
Yeah, it was very cold this morning, so not a lot of animals came out, but we did steal the power for the chop saw, so their hide boxes have cooled off, and maybe it got a couple more animals out. I'm gonna keep plugging away, get this wall figured out, and then I'll show you guys. I think once we get this wall done, we're gonna do the inside plywood, even the inside plywood for the front wall. I still have to do another 2x4 on top of the entrance, grab it onto these studs and another stud up there. I'll probably do it where it's at least 24 inches on center for one cell, and then the other cell will have to stuff with scraps. That's fine as long as it's in there. In fact, we've got some sliver cut pieces that will fill all that. It'll all have insulation, no problem. We're gonna get back to it. All right, wow, it looks a lot brighter on the GoPro because it's almost dark. The sun has already set, and you guys could see the orange glow right about there. And Kagan and I we were trying to get as much as we could done today. It is all plywooded on the exterior. All the insulation is in, minus the roof insulation. Wow. So I still have just that angle board to do there, and this little side here. The roof is going to be framed on 2x6s with 2x4s in the middle, and will set onto this structure. So I know some carpenter is going to say, Jerry, what the heck? It's totally fine. It's just like that at the top, that the roof is going to set on and then be screwed on from the front, and then I'll put flashing on it. But this is all going to be taken apart, and I just built it that way to be taken apart. I don't have walls overlapping. This wall is separate from this wall, although they are tied together, but they can be simply unscrewed, and I could unscrew all this and move it. Yeah, the dogs think that this is like a giant dog house. They've been loving this all day. So we'll be back at it in the morning and try and get this wrapped up tomorrow. Tired. It's the next day and I am plugging away. This is actually the roof structure with the plywood deck done on it, and there's quite a bit more to do to it, but we need to flip it over. I did already finish the plywood on the inside walls. It is echoey in here. It's going to be well insulated. I did make the decision to trim out this doorway, so when I set the flaps, it will be set with the trim in place. I don't want the raw edge of the plywood there. And again, the final location for this, the whole thing will be trimmed with hardy board or cement siding on it. It'll be a very sturdy, warm structure. But what I need to do next is get this flipped up. I've already used the pry bar to get a block in there. This is gonna be pretty heavy once I get it all built. Kegan and I are gonna have to get it on top of the structure, get it to grab that lip, and it should set down on top of it with that 2x6 there, where I can screw the 2x6 to the structure. And from the inside, we should be able to stuff some insulation into any gaps. And later, when it's final installed, I can use a spray insulation and that'll seal it perfectly. For now, we're gonna go ahead and just get it up there and get it where it'll hold the heat in. I'll show you guys once I have this leaned up. This is gonna be a bit of a struggle. Okay, now showing the bottom of the structure, the roof. I had to rip the 2x4s down to 2 1/8 of an inch. The insulation is 2 inches, so it will sit in between those spaces. But more importantly, if I had the full 2x4, the 2x6 wouldn't drop down enough for me to get the screws in it. But this will allow, because remember, it's following the contour of that roof, you lose about 2 inches right there. I need it to totally cover so I can screw it down, front, back, sides, all that. So I had to do that. I know some people say that the airspace is very important in the cells for insulation, but all these advanced technology coolers that hold ice for 10 days and stuff like that, they don't have airspace. So it's gonna have a metal roof, the plywood on top, the insulation, and I am still deciding if I'm gonna plywood the inside, more so for the weight of initially lifting it up and then having to lift it up later, off later, with the metal roof, flashing, tar paper, all that. Of course, we could always get 2 extra people over here and 4 people lift it off, which is totally doable. Maybe I'll just plywood it and be done. That will seal the insulation in, and that would allow us to hang the lights down wherever we want them to end up. I'm gonna start cutting the insulation and glue it into these sections. All right, guys, the underside is now insulated. The 2-inch styrofoam panels with the foil backing is all on there. And I am, Kegan looked at me, she's like, well, we can pick it up, put the plywood on. I thought that's what was gonna hold the styrofoam on. She's right. Why cut a corner? So I'm gonna go ahead and get the plywood in there, and then we get to lift this stinking thing up. I think I'm gonna try and do the flashing and tar paper once it's up there. I may only do the trim and flaps to round out this video. I'm not as concerned about the rain hitting that within the next 3 days. We'll be okay until we get back in town. So let's get that plywood up. All right, moment of truth. It is considerably heavy. Pressure treated lumber is heavy lumber. It's saturated with chemical, and it's very, very heavy until it dries out. And this is fresh lumber we just bought yesterday. So I just had to, when I set it up, I set it on these 2 blocks on either end, but I just lifted it up and did this corner by myself and asked for Kegan's help to do that corner. It's just to lift up one corner. It's stinking heavy. It's let's see, it's 3 sheets of 1/2-inch pressure treated lumber, the 4 8-foot 2x6s, 5 almost 8-foot 2x4s. The insulation doesn't weigh anything. That's a lot. My goal is to stand it up and get it to hook over that, and then we know it's not gonna fall, and then I can come to the outside and lift it up and start sliding and pushing it back. That lift's gonna be the hardest. I'll put you guys on time lapse and you guys can laugh at me. So we got it on. We're both out of breath. I will put the large metal flashing, and then I will extend the roof out a little bit to keep the rain from hitting this fascia. Normally it should have some soffit and overhang, but it's not important for this. This is all pressure treated. It will be sealed. We will have concrete siding on it, or cement siding on it. It encapsulates the whole thing really well. And like I said, temporarily, it's gonna get echoey. We will pack some insulation into this. It will get screwed on, but we'll pack a little bit of that loose insulation in there. You could see a little bit of sunlight, so we'll seal that up. And then in the permanent insulation, we will do the spray insulation foam on all those gaps, and it will be 100% sealed. So very cool. We're gonna break for lunch, and then we can start playing with the trim on the front door, hanging the lights, and getting the flaps done. All right, guys, another day. Kagan is inspecting my work. I have built the ramp. Yeah, it's plenty big for Kagan. Pete, can you go in there?
Pete, come on, Pete.
There you go. Even a senior dog can get in there. So I built the ramp with these 2x4s on the side. So in case one tortoise is coming out and another one kind of pushes on them, we don't have a tortoise rollover here at the ramp. So, and I've got it sitting on a 2x4 ledge underneath, and has supports that are buried into the ground. They're not sitting on concrete or rock or anything like that. They will eventually rot, but the base is temporary. Now, I trimmed this out. I trimmed that out with the hardy board. This is pressure treated 1x4. Hardy board siding can go around that. I always use pond liner for my flaps, and I can tell you, I could smell the chemical coming off of these flaps. We're gonna go visit Kenan. If I can get pond liner, I will swap that out, because that's made for animals right off the bat. I know that this is probably bad. I'm gonna let it heat up today and off gas. That's the right term for it. It smells like a pool raft, like a new pool raft. And tomorrow we'll crank the heat lamps in there, and I will run a fan and try and get, because that's what happens. A lot of those products, once you unroll them, they'll release gas for a period 24, 48 hours, and then they get more stable. But we're gonna switch it out for pond liner ASAP, maybe even before the tortoises even get in there. We still have, it's a nice sized box. Let's see. As long as I keep a flap open, we've got enough light. We still got to push the insulation in that crack, maybe along the back, and that crack there. Now, what I could feel by walking in here is it's doing the opposite of what our purpose is. It's actually holding this morning's cool air in here. It feels air conditioned in here with no air conditioning. And that means the insulation is really good, because outside it feels like it's 85 degrees, right?
Yeah.
It's hot out here. So the fact that it's freezing cold in there means the insulation is working. So we'll get it dialed in. I have the flashing, I have the tar paper. I'll get the tar paper and the flashing up. Maybe not the metal roof, but as long as it's dried in with the tar paper, that will protect it from rain coming in. And I can always get the sheet metal up there a little bit later. I do have a lot to do this week. And today, we're leaving the house. I think I have a Zoom meeting with the judge and hopefully getting a court date to finally get past all that garbage with the garbage. Get past all that. So we're out of here. We'll be back tomorrow at it and finish this thing up. All right, guys, I am standing out in front of the play area, and you can see that I have the large extension cord that is powering everything out here, zip tied up and out of the way. Coming in, Pete? All right. He loves laying in the real soft weeds over there in the corner. I've zip tied the cord out of the way to here. I wanted to get the electrical all the way to a distribution box because we have to run enough power out here to power the fountains and everything later, as well as all the heat pads and lay boxes for all the monitors. But there just wasn't enough time. It's already lunchtime and I need to start getting ready for this Everglades trip. Got a lot to finish this afternoon. So this whole area is done. We just need maybe 1 or 2 water trays and a food tray out here. Everything else is secure. I screwed on some 2x10s so the tortoise can't access that little bit of space we have on the side. I am still gonna have to weed whack back there. The extension cord bringing power into the box. I did my own spliced end on the end of that, and that is jumping from a separate outlet on the house than everything else. You can see I have the flashing up, the tar paper is up, well, before the flashing, and the corrugated roofing material is on. The ramp is done. I already showed you how I had the 2x4s. Now, Chris, that is going to be keeping 2 of his Aldabra tortoises here, was concerned about a door to close them in, to lock them in. And I think I'm going to do a chain system with a chain with a door that I can unhook, and it would actually create a shaded awning for them coming in and out of their box all summer long. I could chain it up tighter against the structure in a storm situation and lock it up with a carabiner, or I could let it flap down and then be bolted shut with a small air gap right here. I don't want anything 100% locked in. I want to lock the animal in, but I still want some air circulation, some. So I will get that done before his animals come here. But going in, ooh, these are not the bulbs that we're going to be using. We're going to be using nighttime heat bulbs in here, and I ordered 4 150 watts. But just to feel what it was going to do, we have a 250 and I believe 100 over there. The 250 feels good. I mean, it's toasty in here right now, but it is also a warmer day. And I say warmer day, it's probably 73 degrees. You can see that Kagan has pushed insulation in around all of those gaps, and a lot of insulation is forced into the gap all the way around. That will be a spray foam once I reassemble this in its permanent location. But all of those air gaps are removed. She just has this sensor push sitting here so she can start reading the temperatures in here. And the wiring, I just have, let's see, I should say the lights I have set up where I can lower them. It's on a carabiner there, and I could lower them if I want them, the heat closer to the animal, so I can change that. But I don't know what the wiring is gonna do later. Am I gonna put a Wi-Fi smart switch on each of them and control them individually? Or will I get a thermostat that can control both of them individually? I have 1/2-inch plywood ceiling and walls, so I can bolt that stuff on and amend it however I want later. Right now it's plugged in. We're gonna give it a dry run tonight and see what the temperatures are. I did not get pond material from Kenan when I was at his house. He was swamped busy. I'm gonna go back outside where you guys can see me. Ugh. So I think this is where we're gonna end this one. I've just got those couple little things to tweak. We are actually gonna drive to Jupiter and get Kahlua from my parents' house and bring Kahlua over here and give it this additional space and see how it does over here. So that's one of my mom's Aldabra tortoises. Super excited to have a large tortoise here. And this space is way bigger than what it has at my mom's house. And the future space is gonna be awesome. It's gonna be similar to what Kenan provides for his, although we still have to remove those cedar trees and borrow that Kubota equipment from him or with him. Kenan may come and run the equipment. I don't know what his agreement is with Kubota, but here comes Charlie. The coolest rooster in the world. And set all those pilings though. Here comes all the chickens. Look at this, guys. Even that little frizzle. That thing is funny. But yeah, this will be a really cool area. I just need to figure out how to put privacy on the fence between my neighbor and I, because that's gonna be a big gap. Oh, yeah, let's see, Charlie's getting up close. I think that's all for this one, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, and ring that notification bell. See you soon.